record, and I'm gonna hit speaker view, and we're ready to go.
Rock and roll. Thanks, John. So I'm delighted today. We have amazing features, including Lesley Wheeler, Sasha Steensen, Holaday Mason, Bernd Sauermann, and Katharine Whitcomb. And to kick off, we're going to listen to one of our co-hosts, Jeffrey Cyphers Wright, who received his MFA after studying with Allen Ginsberg. He's best known as a new romantic poet. He's also a publisher, critic, eco-activist, impresario, filmmaker, puppeteer, and artist. He is the author of 19 books of verse, including Blue Lyre and Party Everywhere. His poems have appeared in the Cafe Review, in New American Writing, the Brooklyn Rail, the Hurricane Review, Posit, and many others. His recent work also appears in the anthologies Best American Poetry, New York Insiders, and Contemporary Surrealist and Magical Realist Poetry. Jeff's latest work is a book of sonnets and artwork called Doppelgangster, which is out from Mad Hat Press. Jeff recently won the Sir Vision James Tate Prize, and that book is now out. And he also publishes Live Mag. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much. Hi, Cassandra. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you all again. And great lineup here. Cindy, I have a hat too. You may have seen it before, but I'm going to put it on just for today. All right, here we go. Troubling times, right? Soul of a ghoul. You can be whomsoever you desire, a zombie, a monster, or a superstar. Just let the enemy within sleep late. Women in Texas are dying. The drought goes on. Gasping grass peeps out from a clover of leaf fall. Instant oatmeal for breakfast. Instant karma forever. The dead have left us their tears. My watch is broken. I lose myself in your care. A bolt of slow light caresses my knots. A witch and a cowboy in cahoots. Halloween's done, but terror strolls in nightmare boots in a ghoul's soul. I had a good time over here in the East Village on Halloween. Saw a lot of cute witches here. So let me introduce our fabulous co-host here, Cassandra Atherton. She's an award-winning prose poet and international expert in prose poetry. Her prose poetry is widely anthologized and has been translated into Japanese, Chinese, and Korean. Cassandra has published more than 30 books and is currently writing an illustrated book of prose poetry on the Hiroshima Maidens with funding from the Australia Council and the Victorian government. Cassandra co-wrote prose poetry, an introduction, and co-edited the anthology of Australian prose poetry. She's commissioning editor for Westerly Magazine and professor of writing and literature in Melbourne, Australia. And she's probably just back from somewhere.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I was in Canberra last weekend and before that Hobart. So yeah, I'm doing the rounds of Australia. I am a prose poet lover. And so this is a poem that combines both things, and it's called Fully Justified because I love the way that many prose poems are justified at both margins. You catch my breath as it floats under a room of words. It warms your palms before easing through the spaces between your fingers, rising like a high sea. In this snuggery, we are a fragment of ourselves, a line without an ending, a gap in the kerning. Between your sheets, I am your skin and my heart, an ecstasy of limbs. When I leave your bed, my corpus haunted by your touch, I'm not sure what you will remember and how much time will smooth the edges of our ragged right margin. I would like to introduce the incredible Mark Vincennes. Now, if I mispronounce things at the end of this bio, we're just going to call it an Australian accent. We're not going to say that I got it wrong. So join in if you are a regular and you know the answers to some of the questions that will come up in the pauses. Mark Vincennes is an Anglo-Swiss American poet, a fiction writer, translator, editor, publisher, designer, multi-genre artist, and musician. He's published over 40 books of poetry, translations, and fiction, including more recently The Pearl Diver of Irunmani, The King of Prussia is Drunk on Stars, and The Mayfly Codex. Forthcoming poetry collections are Spells for the Wicked with Unlikely Books, Ironclad with Spite and Dival, and No More Animal Poems with White Pine Press. Mark is also a prolific translator and has translated from German, Romanian, and French. He's published 12 books of translations, most recently I Hear You and Audible Blue, Selected Poems, 1963 to 2016 by award-winning Swiss poet and novelist, you know his name, it's Klaus Merz. And it won the 2023 Massachusetts Book Prize for Translated Literature. Mark's own work has been translated into many languages, including Japanese, Chinese, Russian, French, Italian, Spanish, Romanian, Greek, German, and Icelandic. He's currently working on a novel entitled The Age of Occasions. Vincennes is editor and publisher of Mad Hat Press and publisher of New American Writing. Here we go. He's lived all over the world, from Brazil to China to Iceland to India. He was born in Matilda Hospital on the Peak in Hong Kong, but he now lives on a farm in rural western Massachusetts overlooking Herman Melville's Greylock Mountain, Melville's inspiration for Moby Dick, where there are more, let's wait for it, there's still more, pied-billed grebes, mossy velvetae, and drunk apomea moths than bipedal hominids. That was a tricky one for a Sunday morning, Mark. What do you got for us? Something glorious, I'm sure.
Well, considering where we're going to be on Tuesday, I have a little poem here that sort of comes into that tone, and it's called The Strong Man's Diptych, with Donald Trump, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un, and Vladimir Putin. 1. Stacking the deep balance of power. Whatever you do in business, you can always edge things along by smoothly offering a little nudge, a green-tinted bottle of something, a carton of your very backhanded best. You can, in the eyes of the beholder, be beholden. And you may also try to strike a balance yourself and reach out to the most mosquito-infested frontiers and discover the darkest armpits, the wow in the factor of 3, or when besieged another 1 in 3 of 4 palms greased, or simply stand on your head, reciting polemic and crude rhetoric, or calling upon the memes and their plebes. You may discover everything you have divested in diverges somewhere down the line, and you build in a sense of drama you can call upon at any given moment. Live bait always works best. And at some stage, you might want to tell the truth, but no one will even know it, since it is considered to be fluff or faulty propaganda. Whatever and whomever you put forward will be singing to your favorite tune all night long. 2. A security apparatus. Divest. Spread things around, hedge. Put forward principles that speak to the people. Own your own penis or your tight wad of cash. Spread them around generously when and where you can. Everyone's economic opportunities will improve. Though you can't question your rulers, you may mumble in your sleep. And even though that contract is difficult to sustain, understand the short-term implications are endless. Those in the long loop know that everything is an express train. Everyone wants to leap aboard when it's moving so fast. But when it's stalling, look for the deep break. Who, after all, is not transnational and simply transactional? Let us leverage this competition for our own benefit. And that is the poem. and I am delighted to introduce the first of our features today, and that will be Lesley Wheeler, whose sixth poetry collection, Microcosmic, will be published by Tupelo in 2025. Lesley is also the author of Poetry's Possible Worlds and the novel Unbecoming. Her work has been supported by Fulbright, the National Endowment for the Humanities, Bredeloaf, and the Swanee Writers Workshop. Her recent poems and essays appear in Poetry, Massachusetts Review, American Poetry Review, Ecotone, Poets and Writers, and elsewhere. And Lesley's also poetry editor of Shenandoah and lives in Virginia and teaches at W&L. Thanks so much for joining us, Lesley.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me and for warming up my brain and heart with those great poems. So can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, excellent. I'm going to start with a poem about the most awkward conversation I've ever had. It's called Sex Talk. After a fight, men want to have sex, but I don't, my mother said. She glanced at undergraduate me from the driver's seat as if a membrane had been breached and asked, "Do you?" I wanted to change the subject. We were returning from the mall through the stony suburb where the model lived, the one who said, "Nothing comes between me and my Calvins," where the fire department floods the common every winter for skating, creating warty ice ungroomed by Zambonis, grass snagged in its skin like ingrown hairs. My mother kept looking at me, her eye a sideways question mark, tricky liquid liner painted along the lid, pupil unrelenting. Everyone in the family except my mother owned their own lockable room. She had to read her Harlequins out in the open like a gazelle. We stalked through, asking and asking, "Where is thee? Why can't I? Help me." Nightly, her shirtless husband arrived with a pump jar of Jergens, demanding she moisturize his back, scaly from chlorine. But I knew, spy crouching on the stairs, fingertips brushing wallpaper embossed with creamy trees, its surface all bubbles and seams, what he was after. Once at a modernism conference, a guy chased me around the canapes while lecturing me on Marianne Moore's asexuality. I knew my mother didn't like sex, but I never asked, was it generally or just sex with my father? Nothing gets between me and my shame. I don't know what Moore wanted, just that she wrote cryptic poems under her mother's surveillance. Heterosexual marriage, she too disliked it. She was nearly 60 when her mother died. Now I know death's intimacy, how honesty frightens me. My mother is everywhere, cells lodged in my body, invisible flakes of skin on sweaters, a baggie of ashes on the bookshelf. Not after a fight. Until adrenaline burns off, I'm hot but clenched. I hope she knew what an orgasm feels like. During my first, a rainbow tree grew between me and my eyelids privately. She said to us over her book, "No, I don't want to hug you goodnight." So that's in the forthcoming book called Microcosmic. It's just available from Tupelo Press for pre-order on their website, and it's officially out at the beginning of March. I hope you'll check it out. It's got beautiful cover art of a very spiritual mushroom by the artist Pearl Cowan. This one's called Garden State. I grew up in New Jersey. The last poem was set there, and so is this one. A man in a suit approached and touched my arm. Would I pose in front of the merry-go-round? I was 13, free for an hour in the middle of Paramus Park Mall in America. I was America. The man was leading a tour. The tourist spoke no English. My English mother said, "Your sister is beautiful, but you are reasonably attractive." She chose my clothes, that day a blouse abuzz with flowers, a pink pleated skirt. "Yes," I said, and sat on the bench. Everybody smiled. My hair curled like orchid petals. A carousel horse whispered, Why would they point their cameras at you as if you were pretty? This will be a story, I replied, of cold glass eyes that saw the bloom in me. Neither my mother nor my father had a lot of money, which didn't stop people behaving very badly over what was left. As some of you will know, it seems to money is love, right? So, family tree, this one is called, and it's about that process. My dad was an awful narcissist, and one of the stories we learned from his third wife is that she kept her money in bank rolls around the house, which was unwise, and he apparently stole the rolls and buried them all over the backyard. Family tree. The third wife served my father divorce papers on his deathbed, desperate and on the scent of rolls of carrion 50s she had entrusted to the bank. He buried them to feed the stinking sumac. The third wife's sister and my sister got pissed at his funeral. I thought it might come to fists, so I murmured gentle things. I'm quiet in person, but my sharp-shinned hawk of a sister was right to scream from the branches. Years later, we should have smelled something when our brother, sole executor of our mother's will, stalled. We spent, God, almost 2 years in calls. Tree of heaven, he couldn't stop squeezing small change. Now I keep pleading with my mother's ash. You lived with them, fed them, laundered their clothes. How could you not know? 2 men wasting so much love. But my father's suckering ailanthus cloned itself in my brother, and I'm my mother shopping for potions to clean the fury up. This book is called Mycocosmic, myco being the prefix having to do with mushrooms and fungus. As I was writing these poems, some of them occasioned by my mother's final illness, I was obsessed with fungus. I was reading about it, and especially the idea of mycelium, the idea that there is this buried life, fungal life that's um, helping the trees talk to each other and literally connecting us all. And of course, it also eats death. So without it, death would overwhelm the world. So it became a powerful metaphor for that too. And I think it's a spiritual book as well as one with a lot of family and a lot of fungus in it. This is a poem called Return Path. If you hear repetition in it, you're right. It's a kind of dirty villanelle. The only way to pray is through my feet, earthward, jolted in return by the fizz of a spiking current. I never thought a circuit would loop through me, believed I was separate, alone, done with gods. But here it is. I found a way to pray. Through my feet, I reach down. There's something animate, mycelial, that touches me back. It's a species of love, a thinking spike, a zinging circuit of energy and dirt, blood and spirit, plutonic conversation, mostly wordless. The way I found to pray is through my feet, soul bared to wooden boards or rug or slate or buggy grass, just as you want to press skin to a beloved's, sparking a current, a circuit. Not that Earth loves me exactly. Matters what matters. She wants me to return the mess of my only body, pray from head through feet as I sink, unthinking ash, into love circuit. I'm going to read just one more. Thank you. This is I've stayed away from politics in this reading because I need to stop doom scrolling. But this one has a little bit of that element. It also has a quietly participatory element. The poem, this is from the state she's in, a poem that came out in March 2020, not an auspicious date. This poem was written in 2016, and it's got, you probably can't see it, but 3 blank spaces in it. You can mentally fill those in. The first 2 think of someone like you'd like to banish from the world, someone you're done with. For the third one, think about something wonderful. All-purpose spell for banishment. A pox on blank and the gerrymander he rode in on. Expel, export, exile him while we smudge sage smoke around. At the 0 hour, as our wombs contract under the moon, cast him out, groper, loomer, cheater, rapist, harassing, mogul, bully, frilled narcissus of a boss. Evict without visa, dissolve his assets and social media accounts. Let there be no comb-over strays stranded on sofa backs, no despotic perfume. Erase his name even from rumor, from amygdala. Remove all dimples left in moss by cloven loafer. There is no blank. There never was. As the last syllable of this incantation sounds, it breaks over us how light we feel, like lemon mousse in a silver dish on an early spring morning before the leaves grow in, each cell of foam trapping nothing but sugar and sunshine. On our tongues, only blank. Thank you. This was really fun. Looking forward to hearing the rest of you.
Thank you so much, Lesley. On our tongues, only blank. Next, we hear from Sasha Steensen, who's the author of 6 books of poems, including House of Deer, The Method, The Magic Book, all from Fence Books, Gatherist from Ashata Press, Everything Awake from Shearsman, and Well from Parlour in 2024. Sasha's recent essays have appeared in Tupelo, Interim, and Essay Press. She's at work on an ongoing multimedia project entitled Overland, an incomplete history of 3 acres and all that surrounds. I'll post her link in the chat. She teaches creative writing and literature at Colorado State, where she was named the 2023 Stern Distinguished Professor. Sasha is poetry editor for Colorado Review and an editor for the Test Site Poetry Series. She lives in Fort Collins, Colorado with her husband and 2 daughters, and she tends a garden, a flock of chickens, 2 standard poodles, and a very fierce barn cat. Welcome, Sasha.
Thank you. And thank you, Lesley. That was lovely. Thank you to Mark and Cassandra and Jeffrey. And if there's somebody I should be thanking that I'm not, I'm sorry. I'm just going to read from my new book. Well, it's not that new now. I guess it came out January. And it's mainly it's like 5 series of poems. So I won't stop much. I'll just kind of read. Has a little epigraph from Audre Lorde's Cancer Journals, My Body, a Barometer. Given a preface. We all have words we hear as bells, as bellows, as bellwethers. When these words are spoken, we hear them louder, clearer. They rouse us from a waking sleep. You know the words I mean. Word bells. Mostly women have given me my words. Creek was given, God was given, garden was given, margin was given. My teacher taught me all words run along the margins of their secrets. Rachel Carson called the edge of the sea the marginal world. She loved the crabs that scuttled at the margins. Several years before her cancer diagnosis, Carson wrote, "The little crab alone with the sea became a symbol that stood for life itself, for the delicate, destructible, yet incredibly vital force that somehow holds its place amid the harsh realities of the inorganic world. The little crab is also cancer's symbol. The margin of a cancerous tumor is removed during surgery. When no cancer cells are found at the edge of the tissue, the margin is described as negative. When cancer cells are found at the edge of the tissue, the margin is described as positive. The margin where ill and well meet. What if the body is an ocean which at every tide covers what it needs to survive? What if the body is an ocean which at every tide recovers what it needs to survive? Body is given. Survive is given. What if the body is boundless, marginless when afloat on a boundless, marginless water? My daughters watch me as I swim out into the Pacific, past the waves, and float, eyes shut. They dip their toes but do not dare swim in without me watching them. Women in crisis sometimes address other women in letters or themselves in diaries, journals, notebooks as protection against a world hostile to their bodies, or they address both. Friend is given. They send their message out into the not always greatly hopeful, toward something standing open, they float. A margin is open, as is a poem. Maybe margins shelter the inapprehensible imaginary of poetry. Maybe a poem is a margin a poem. It took me nearly 3 years to obtain an image of my cancerous breast. Though the breast belonged to me, the image I learned was not my property. Nothing looked threatening. Instead, the tumor resembled an oyster mushroom and the veins its accompanying hyphae, my mycelium. Every 3 months when new images are created, the mushroom is still gone. But what is wellness anyway? To be in the world and of it? Or does wellness mean to be in the beached margin of the sea, where we are not entirely ourselves, but microbial, grass leafy, sea caly, polygenomic, a collection of secrets sent or kept, a letter, journal, diary, notebook, is a volcano, is a kingdom of cinders, is a lover, is a poem? Is the recipient internal or external or both? Is a reaching, regardless, and once one is known, one knows in which way one is alone, and once one is alone, one knows in which way one is known, and diagnosis is given, gnosis is given is given. Abby gave me a poem. Perhaps one day the day's doors will open, and then we shall enter the unknown. The next poems are from a section called For Those Who Drink from Whence Pure Wells. My body a barometer. Elsewhere, phalum lift you up, tuber or bulb. The first word I heard when I woke was the nurse's. Well, she said, it went just outside. At first I thought a hole filled with water, a bucket on a rope. My sleeping reach, I guess. But even that assumption seemed a struggle. What does the body know of where it goes when the breast is open, eyes closed? There is a fog unfolding that sits low on the foothills for some days and nights, for some weeks and months. The strangest thing is the way words hide. For those who drink from once pure wells, sometimes it's okay to be afraid and necessary. I have one hand with fear in it. I hold it out towards the wilds, the dove or eagle, the beak or feet, land and tear, the branch. To be, in fact, is to be itinerant, inside that which is errant, but unable to move by virtue of its holding truth tight in its fist. Only one of us needs the other, doctor. I spend my days with you, looking out your windows. My dove hasn't come back with its olive branch, but I look out for her from my post on the 2nd floor of the cancer center. Go ahead, touch me there, here, and here, and here. For those who drink from once pure wells, I speak to everything. Hello there, expanse, expense. Hello there, silent spring. Hello there, dead ringing. Hello there, black widow. Hello there, open window. Hello there, body speaking. Hello there, new tumor. Hello there, a word it will say every day from now on. That word being, being. Hello there, being. Hello there, thin layer of soil over our earth. Think layer of soil over our earth. Think skin. Think contaminants. Think continents of them. crop spraying across the street. Think no barrier between. What is soil, skin, but eons of interactions, lichens too, and hull and bark and husk and peel and shell and sheath and sleeve. And what else covers and opens itself at the same time? What else permeable? What else persons means to sound through? What else lodging place, skin and soil alike? What else bacteria, fungi, algae? What else blessed springtails we need? We can't even see. What else mites born only in the fallen needle of a spruce tree? What else earthworm? What else earth worn? What else or earth warns us? What else my birth canal, my chamber? I pray that my grave might be ready to receive me ill or well. Let nothing else grow here, not even our own being. No, not even our own being well. What else? I'm just going to read one more poem. This book is dedicated to my mother and my good friends, Becky and Christy, but I have the longest acknowledgement page I'll ever write, I'm sure. Most of this book is really just about friendship, I think, even though it's obviously about cancer, and particularly female friendship. So this poem is called The Walk, and it's for Christy and then for our daughters. They're not all my daughters. 2 of them are my daughters and 2 of them are her daughters, Hannah, Phoebe, Greta, and Iris. When the page answered, so did the larks and the long-awaited mountain we climbed many times, but had not fully seen. Its streams, for example, or the river they feed, or the animal tracks we photographed but forgot to look up or track down, or when we saw what seemed to be a bobcat, or was it a lynx or a mountain lion? We chose the median, one having appeared in your dream, its tail we saw differently, me black-tipped, you white underneath, and having loved the word lynx, the word almost without vowel, the word asking why, when so few words do, so few willing to betray themselves in this particular way. Why it was hard to see exactly, I cannot say, but there was a way in which we had become preoccupied by our daughters. It was as if the page and the word could not bear it any longer, this necessary releasing into the world. It was as if the cliff we often climbed was not able to face the water below, its mirroring, its sparkling, its overcasting shadow, as if the coyote we once saw running knew to move away from us as we opened our hearts to triumph when triumph meant twilight. Or was it dawn, when we turned to our next life with a willingness to be unwilling to be in agony any longer? The ache the foot felt whenever it touched the runway, its black asphalt left to crack after too many planes, wind at their wheels, refused to land on that treacherous path. So we moved, remember, from grief, and then I guess an opening, like the one we once found in the meadow, or was it a field, a clearing, no doubt, each flower working its white petals out of the ground. Were they starflowers, or were they some sort of yarrow? Either way, they answered, not unlike the columbine we passed at the tree line, its open purple mouth, also asking why. We thought at first it was a way to pass the solitude together, a sort of rhythm to the day that gave way to the heavy restlessness we both felt, not unlike the mountain clouds forming over the house and turning suddenly to snow or rain, everything dreary and glistening, skimming even the surface of the pond, the lighting lit up. What we believed was thunder was further, like the thunderous pain we shared when we could not possibly share it with them, our daughters stuck in the house, and then walking out. We always took the dogs, the only ones who seemed genuinely happy to walk alongside us, their muddy paws goat-heady, heavy with running, with prairie dog longing, with digging for voles or tugging feathers from the already half-eaten magpie wind in the sandy, wet soil at the edge of the barbed wire fence. That reminds me. Remember when we felt the bird overhead, but looked instead in the opposite direction and were unsure if the sweep was an owl's or a hawk's, the sun blaring, obscuring belief like a lynx in the foothills shadow where the reservoir's runoff collects by the natural resource building. It isn't as if we always walked in some remote place. In fact, we mostly did not. Why, I'm not sure, but likely we had to return quickly to our daughters, the collected house finch's nest built on the eaves, nestled between the inherited useless satellite dish, its unworldly blue eggs and the cowbird's single speckled one, the nest almost blown off for a whole howling spring month, while her younger self marveled and checked every day for hatchlings that never came, until we brought the nest in and positioned it on a most visible shelf where it still sits, its mud, its twigs with dry buds falling off. The way after years of why, this just appeared on the page. Water from the rock, my friend, the walks, the dusk, the dawn, the gray light, depending on the season, the freeze or heat, appearing or disappearing, water from the rock, my friend, the ever-bearing walk we still to this very day take. Thank you.
Thank you, Sasha. Wow. We still to this very day take. Next, we hear from Holaday Mason, whose sixth collection is As If Scattered. Her previous books of poetry include Towards the Forest, Dissolve, The Red Bowl, A Fable in Poems, the She series, a Venice correspondence with Sarah Maclay, The Weaver's Body, as well as 2 chapbooks, Interlude and Light Spilling from Its Own Cup, published widely in journals like Hotel America, Spillway, Pool Poetry International, and others. Holaday is also a fine photographer, focusing on the inextricable relationship between humans and nature. She's also a psychotherapist since '93, and she lives in Venice, California. And I'll post her website in the chat. Welcome, Holaday.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you, Lesley. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Mark, Cassandra, John. And I thank Jeffrey. Yes. Yes.
That's correct. That is correct.
So, just a little introduction to the book. The book is, and thank you to my publisher, Giant Claw, which is an imprint of What Books Press here in Los Angeles. The book is constructed of what I'm calling core poems and informal erasures, and they really are informal. So anybody that's gone hunting has come up baffled. So the way I'm going to read this has to do with, I'll read in the book, the erasures are first, like in a translation, but I will read them the other way around because they don't make sense orally if I don't read them with the core poem first. This is predicated on a thesis having to do with, falling in love as an elder, a senior citizen, if you will, and how difficult it is to be an elder, and how the caretaking of the body as we age is directly related to how we care for our earth. So I'll read a few love poems. I was blessed to fall in love as an old lady. And then I'll read from some poems that have to do with our planet and our politics. Thank you for asking me. A bedtime story. The body beneath me is a bellows, a train. The hymns of our instruments strike the air, our limbs a nexus of lightning. Fluffing the pillows into a street carnival, we travel from our old selves, carrying just the essentials. I open, he opens me more. The oil of laughter melts the webs around our eyes. It dampens our hair, turns us more naked. We hold each other up to the native light. We are translucent, huge. Should we be able to see so much? We hold just the essentials, our limbs more naked, I open the hymns. We are a train of lightning. Ancient is always. Look how my hands are steady, not a shake, yet no tremble. The daylight arrives, reads the abacus, the eras behind our pentimenti. We are always almost old until we are in our personal imperfect homes of skin. So I protect this shared hydrangea bed where I count your vertebra as if casting oracle runes, running my fingers over ancestral land masses of yarrow, goldenrod, where once you were a bearded god, a giant groundswell, my fighting companion with unassailable perfect teeth and baritone growls. But now my gait slower with the black oak cane ensures I won't bellow, won't win this always war, and neither will you. Nobody does. The daylight arrives. My hands are a giant groundswell. I run my fingers over oracles. We are imperfect in our skin. Tiptoeing. When you lay your head between my breasts, you're always whistling, seeing only rosy mountains. Sometimes it's just a matter of momentum, skirting what can't bear close examination. Midsummer is behind us, a leaping wild fox. Go ahead and holler off key. My red lipstick dispels a lot. I too pray not to panic at the moment of death. We align ourselves with both horizons, two jeweled birds who whip a filthy puddle into rainbow pinwheels. Come close to me, my love, close as you can. When you get here, I will make you something nice. Between both horizons, affection sees only my red lipstick. The room overflowing with tulips. After we burned the Christmas tree dangerously close to the house, after the New Year, when a friend kept delivering foil wrapped seasonal chocolates, root infused teas for chronic pain, after your children grew limbs of silence that broke off, when adornments, glued heirlooms, glass birds, and window angels were wrapped and carefully stored, when we realized your children would never call, we buried the masks, we buried 3 more, we conducted the amputations, the dulled hatchet we used on the tree got lost in the grass. We hand wrote instructions on building amulets, used the correct poisons to kill off the useless, translated the vague jazz of sorrow, and you covered me where I lay, and I covered you where you lay, the hours everywhere, tulips everywhere. We buried the masks, glass angels everywhere, wrote instructions on chronic pain. Your children were building amulets. So I'm going to turn to the last section of the book and read a few poems from that section. No one dreams we are on fire. Alive and cold, wet grass, stones on our feet. we take up our journals of smoke. Another war because someone wants what others have. Snakes shimmer up my arms as I try by firelight to resume the exam of living in the face of so much gore. Someone wants to paint the stars black. None of us can correctly imagine what other lives are like. Even thousands of miles away, the trees smell blood, try to warn us. The chronicles stammer on, the day, the date, the year, the last of the moon lies on her back, tethered helplessly to the sun. Our outlines smear into each other. Your hands are made of every husband. Clasped together, our hands are made of everyone. The trees smell blood. The journals of smoke stammer onto the last of the moon. Your hands shimmer. You need to get over your biography. Across the street, a new baby shrieks, angry in its new body. My collarbones hurt. I thrash around, can't get the blue light to shut down the news cycle, the collective stupor. In the insect moan of the city, the tiny gutters of my backbone fit to my loves as he plays guitar. I listen for translation. Our hair grows white silently. Some days I am crippled just watching the razors of hummingbirds aim at victory over hunger in small eruptions of ruthlessness, the way a man might chance to shoot a clay pigeon out of the sky at just such an angle, each dense speckle utterly disappears. In small collections of ruthlessness, eruptions of blue light, I thrash. Our hair grows white in the news cycle. And I will read one or two more. It's a lot of poetry. It's a lot of good stuff I'm hearing. So our ears get tired, so I will keep it short. Oops, wrong. I have to find the poem. That could be tedious. Here we go. Talking to ashes. Talking to ashes. They are golden, so it must be tomorrow. Under a tree of dream catchers, the drought cracks oaks into panga. Oregon suffocates in smoke. Hydrangeas and birches burn. The trees are uncorrupted in union, in communion, interspecies, carbon fed with sunlight. They give birth to violins. While 4 chainsaws tear the tall eucalyptus across the street to rags, my index and ring finger bend over my thumb like a mother protecting a babe. The gesture had been my mother's. The last of the family line, I carry the horned spine of the grandmother's bundle, so I live in both over and under worlds, where signals travel from root to root, netting the globe. Debris flies the way grasshoppers do. Sawdust coats the sunlight, like the marigolds covering the graves on the Day of the Dead, as destiny's candles shine signals back and forth between all the departed. So I ask them to remember me, show me the way when I too return to the entrance. Signals travel back and forth between oaks, birches, between all the departed netting the globe. They shine. I think I'll end there. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Holaday. Really appreciate that. Next, we hear from Bernd Sauermann, who served as a professor of writing, literature, and film at Hopkinsville Community College in Kentucky for 20 years, and recently is now a visiting professor of writing at Adams State University in Alamosa, Colorado. Bernd was born in Hof, Germany, and emigrated to the US in 1969. He holds a BS in anthropology from Northern Arizona University and an MA in English and MFA in creative writing from McNeese in Louisiana. Bernd has had poems, stories, photos, and videos published in the McSweeney's Book of Poets, Enchanting Verses Literary Review, McSweeney's Southern Indiana Review, and many more. His chapbook, Diesel Generator, was published by Horseless Press in 2013, and his chapbook, Diagrams and Nomenclature, was published by White Knuckle in 2015. His full-length books of prose poems include 7 Notes of a Dead Man's Song, published by Mad Hat, and Redshift, which was published by Lit Press. Welcome, Bernd. Are you here, Bernd? Looks like Bernd disappeared.
Nah, he's here.
He's here. He's here.
Just
Oh, there.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you for everyone who makes this this possible. Mark, Jonathan, I haven't seen him, but I know he's instrumental as well. And thank you for all of you. I'm going to read a few poems from Redshift, which was published via Litfest Press. And Redshift, if you might be familiar with the term, refers to light coming at you and changing frequency as it passes you and recedes, kind of like the Doppler effect with light. And these poems, the way I'm going to read them, I guess, is they're very short, kind of moments, and I'm just going to read the title and the poem, and then I'll move on. That's sort of the way I wrote it. Well, I'll just get you started here. This first poem is called Ferrous, as in made of iron. Ferrous, Ferrous. An old man's voice rumbles down a cobblestone street as the smell of diesel is married to the sharp slap of memory. A bus pulls away from a curb. A cloud of exhaust suggests long-lost generations of steel, and locomotives and buses bring the old man to his knees at the altar of a moment. There's the sound of a hammer on an anvil. There are the ghosts of boxcars moaning in the station. There was a time the old man believed in the power of steel, but then a national anthem was sung in a dead child's voice. Skeleton key. There are teeth under the bed where a boy sleeps. A door opens and a mother figure walks in. The boy falls in love with a secret, and the secret falls in love with a skeleton key. A lock appears and opens itself like memory. Sometimes it's almost too much to bear. Pastoral. The children are asleep in the fields and more silent than flowers. I tell you this in a tiny voice, my words closer together than the spaces between the beats of a hummingbird's heart. And is a once fertile phrase now heavy with vines and ivy? Is my ear filled with severed leaves? Are blades of grass just now snapping at the wind? I knew it would come to this. I knew it would come to this blue day with clouds moving quickly off out over the horizon. Tropic of Cancer. Pleasure hides itself in the monsoons, in the shadows of palm and papaya, the jackfruit, the trembling stillness of the Tropic of Cancer. Like a warm snake, desire crawls the length of my legs. Spiders the size of my hands are everywhere. And as a keyhole turns around me like a jungle, something in my heart, something in my chest burns like a heart. Let's see. Hindsight. The night passes like a headache. War and death are imminent. Could we have guessed a dark basement room where there are bars on the window, looming bicycles, stacks of empty luggage in the corner? Could we have guessed a life raft hundreds of miles from the sea? Years later, these memories rolling back and forth like dead things in the surf. Lie, L-Y-E, like the part of what soap is made of. There are vows like ink of the letters of words of a poem printed on the pages of a burnt book, its ashes long since made into soap. Forever, always, never. I beg her to repeat these words until they are scrubbed of all meaning. In the garden. A woman strolls in the perennial garden. The moonflowers, Daturia and Noxia, are in full bloom. What would a poisonous flower trade for a phrase whispered at midnight? And why this fluttering of hands like the wings of a mute swan? Obsolescence. No longer a stick tossed in the current, and no longer a slow walk down a long black hall. No longer one tasteless pint downed after another in front of some flickering TV. No surreptitious phrase in the corridor of a cringing mouth. No freezing footprints in the snow of a collapsed day, and no longer a scent lingering like hours spent in a room filled with rusting knives. And I'm going to end with just a poem or two from 7 Notes of a Dead Man's Song, which Mark published with Mad Hat Press. And this last section of the book is called Diesel Generator, and these there's a series of 27 poems, and to be honest, they just sort of appeared to me, and I just flapped in the wind behind them as I wrote them down. It took about a week, but I guess the persona is something called the Diesel Generator, and I'll just read it. A hole signals the presence of nothing, thinks the Diesel Generator. Once lying in a field with a girl, you had a similar thought. Here, said the girl, and offered her breast. You were grateful in retrospect that the sky held no rain and the grass was soft and cool. The girl nuzzled closer and expressed her love like warm milk. At her feet, a lake or a pond appeared in approval. Wavelets lapped at her toes. Surely there must be more to this story than that, suggests the Diesel Generator. Yes, you say, a hole opened in the sky and a blue light came pouring forth. A blue light, says the Diesel Generator, signals the presence of a lie. You think about this for a minute as you consider the motives of the Diesel Generator for telling you this obvious lie. And then finally, One last diesel generator poem. I label everything so that I may know that everything has been approved by me, says the diesel generator. I've made a label for my label maker, and I've made a label for your love of napping on Sunday afternoons in front of the closed window as a slow rain blurs the sounds of those who walk by. A car sits waiting for service in the parking lot. There is soft rain on its windshield. A girl waits for a window to open. The diesel generator labels this situation with a label reading pleasant situation, then sits back for a smoke labeled the history of regret in New England, the formative years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bernd. Great pleasure. Next, we hear from Katharine Whitcomb, who's the author of 3 full-length collections of poetry, including Habitats, published in January 24 from Poetry Northwest Editions, Saints of Dakota and Other Poems, which won the Blue Stem Award, and The Daughter's Almanac, which won the Backwaters Prize. Katharine, that one was chosen by Patricia Smith. Katharine has published 2 poetry chapbooks and a book of faux self-help art criticism titled The Art Courage Program. She was a Stegner Fellow at Stanford University and is the recipient of fellowships from the Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown and elsewhere. She is a distinguished professor at Central Washington University and divides her time between Vermont and Washington State. Welcome, Katharine. I'm going to put your website in the chat as well.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful to be asked to be part of this, and I want to say thank you again to John, Cassandra, Mark, and Jeffrey, and to my fellow readers, Lesley, Sasha, Holaday, and Bernd. It's an amazing group of writers, and I'm very honored to be reading with you. So I'm just going to read from Habitats. Like Mark said, it came out in January this year. The habitats are divided into 3 groups: forest, hotels, and dreams. And I'm going to read from each of those sections. Start out, this is the first poem in the book, also called Sleepless Ode. Oh, lost person, do you remember reading a book in gray-green spring light, your back flat on the cab window of a borrowed pickup, 11 p.m., your knees propping your elbows, and how we always headed north to Ontario to nearly vacant provincial parks for aimless, slow-houred weekends, and how a moose dripping with lake weed, dozing on his feet in the middle of the camp road, didn't care about us, awestruck us. I think of you now in spring again, and I just want to sit outside in an old, wild, empty place, wrapped in your coat, as poor as we were poor then, but there, with everything growing together, awake and away from death all the livelong night. And this is lines for Midwinter, a solstice poem. Winter solstice. Lines for Midwinter. Time was, we threw an annual solstice party to burn our burdens, send flaming tongue depressor boats downriver with a cargo of curling photos of old boyfriends and bad habits scrawled on scraps. We waved goodbye from the shore and made lists of good wishes. This year, I cannot do it. Instead, I stomp a big circle through the snow, 1,000 footprints around the house, and do not raise my face once, though the birds overhead are hungry and I hear them. For me, no more trying on shirts for a turn before the mirror, no dreaming like a princess under my quilts. I am not young or uncomplicated or down to earth. The future is a candle flame painted by Gerhard Richter. The future is a lost dog on the road. Inside my house, a lamp is lit. Through the window, the walnut bookcase looks for a moment, broad-shouldered and tall, like someone else. So I have a couple of hotels. The first one is Hotel Vienna. Now that no one loves me, tiny angels relinquish their architecture to circle my cheekbones, their shields outstretched. Some surge through narrow alleys, prickling the air. Some whisper comfort into carriage horses' ears. Now that no one loves me, angels sleep on worn velvet sofas in Cafe Helvelka, while coffee passes hand to hand above their heads. 3 bald angels arrange insects on a woman's shoulder, stretching out each black spiny leg. Some extinguish the exit signs inside vast glowing museums. Some smoke outside on the grand verandas. Now that no one loves me, angels unhook each precious painting to set the trees inside them free. Some bestow straw and flower garlands upon wool-suited matrons for me. Now, for me, without love here, Nietzsche wrote, the world is deep. So I thought I would write a Vermont poem. I would read a Vermont poem and represent tonight. This is a hotel poem. I lived in Vermont before I moved to Washington State, and now I've moved back, 20 years in between. And this was when it wasn't so great. Hotel poem. I sat up sleepless one northern winter in an old padded armchair, too fear-choked to rest, but nothing in fact lurked outside except a wide, shallow river lining a rural route, animal trails and farms. Once a gaggle of green-headed turkeys pooled around my iced-over picnic table, beeping like TV Martians in the yard. I was alone, yes, young. When I lay on my side, something fleeting sometimes blocked the light. My thoughts flew peripherally, penciled escaping kites. Cold mornings, I'd blink in the sunshine, mumbling, I'm sorry, to my memories. Of course, the years must pace that echoing corridor, lift each glass cover from collection trays of rare insects, dead decades now. Is it my work to keep watch, dust the high bell jars under which the descendants of pink and white lab mice nap through the afternoon? I live far from the dark mountain house now. I take drugs at bedtime. Vines reclaim framed embroideries on the library wall. A ring holds keys shaped like flattened stars. Maybe I let myself sleep because you breathe like a sea on the next pillow, your boy face unhaunted, exhausted, easy now. Leather-bound notebooks scripted with care lose their deckled edges to decay, but the years do not read. They walk barefoot, room after room. So I'll read just 2 more from the dreams section, that habitat. And I got this title, oddly, from Wallander, that series. This was a line that Kurt Wallander's father said to him when he realized he had dementia, and he was an artist. And he said to Wallander, "Is this how it ends? Meaning, all meaning ending here." So this is not about Wallander. Meaning, all meaning ending here. There's a way the crash of a boisterous river scoring the air above itself stops completely. When the trail bends into a grove of trees and the air hangs blank and clean for a second, for 3 seconds, 5, total, nothing. Roaring world suddenly still as what? Space that feels like a living animal, beating blood, breathing, surrounded with its own beingness, then not anymore. But where? How? So much noise, upended, over there by the alders. And this one is a pandemic poem. I think we all have them. This is I Keep the Calendar Alive. I keep the calendar alive with daily treks. A small hawk treads air, hunting, then wafts over my head to perch on a pole. I run in the cold morning past a knot of confused cattle, newly trucked into pasture. I yell, "Hi cows, hi cows." Every one of us breathing, chests up, chests down. They bawl, some tripping, circling back around. With each step, I move myself inside myself, face pricked by the bright wind bowling down from the foothills. Our days erode the dream we thought was time. I am we here as I run alone along a little used road north of town. Sometimes I see snakes and skunks, dead, alive. Plumes of gnats catch my hair, hawk wheeling. That we all die used to be an abstraction. I count backwards. We, I. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for counting backwards. And what an amazing group of readings. Wow. Katharine, Bernd, Holaday, Sasha, Lesley, amazing. Next we hear from our technical director, John Wessick, who's regional editor of the San Diego Poetry Annual. He's published hundreds of poems and stories in journals such as the Atlanta Review, Berkeley Fiction Review, I-70 Review, and many, many more. And his most recent books are The Shaman in the Library and The Prague Deception. Here's John.
Thank you, Mark. This is called Frank's Last Reading. Frank collapsed. Dick rushes to the parking lot. Linda and I stare at one another, then follow. The handsome man with a Van Dyke and silver hair lies face up on the asphalt. A burly rescue worker pumps his chest. Frank's pelvis tilts with each compression. He's got a cat. Somebody needs to take care of the cat. An open shirt scar running down his sternum, the skin on Frank's forehead blue like Krishna. The police corporal, a Tom Skerritt lookalike, in clean plus black fatigues with faded edges, asks, "How long ago did this happen?" The spiral notebook on the pavement contains the last scribbled poem Frank honored us with. I recall one about sitting like a Buddha in a messy house, mindful, and I wish I'd paid more attention. How long ago did this happen? The heart monitor traces a ragged sine wave, but flattens when chest compressions cease. A paramedic, all purple gloves and apologies, approaches. We did all we could. Dick cries and touches Frank's hair. I recite the Enmei Juko Kanangyo under my breath. He was in his 80s. What about the cat? What did he do? He was a minister. A few of us go back inside. Polite conversation covers stark experience like the shroud of sky blue paper hiding the body. Over dinner, we talk about Paris and school bus drivers and admire the sunset. The bill arrives on a black plastic tray. We pay up and go our separate ways.
Thank you. But what about the cat? Who's going to look after the cat? That's my favorite bit.
Yeah, I
did go
don't know. I don't know what happened to the cat, but it's a true story.
I was going to say, I went to a conference once where someone died. It was awful. And people walked around the body to get like the scones for morning tea. People were just so rude about the whole thing. It was terrible.
Yeah, I think Frank was a bodhisattva who showed us a hidden part of life, and so I kind of thank him for that, and I kind of honor him for that.
That is a beautiful way to honor him. Thank you, John. Well, it's been a while. It's a joy to have our beat master, beat poet back with us. Linda, what have you been up to? Give us one of your incredible beats.
Hi there. Haven't seen you in a while either. I've been going to a lot of poetry readings. I've been staying out of town, so I have one more coming up, and then I'll be more around where I live more often. This is a new poem, and it's not really a beat poem, but I'll read it because it will be the first time I read it publicly. Okay, the name of it is Virtue. We are on a peace mission, Nadia and I. We travel camelback through Egypt, discovering, discussing, bonding with natives. I like that she and I are paired up. Her resume and mine seemingly mesh, yet differ in ways that I shall learn more of. I foolishly ask, do you possess virtue? She answers, show me your masterpiece, like the one that hangs in the friar's collection that defines chaos like a mosaic mural once compared to a grotesque maze. Fragments of emotional strife hang heavy on me. Every word spoken between us feels intentional. We act on what is essential. Journey toward a safer region. Cobblestone, sand, sun burns, ruby red, burns away despair. She carries herself as if in a pose, splays her limbs aside her body like a vine out of control, twined and wrapped around objects, often people she never met till now. I want to cast a spell over her. Nadia and I see everything and nothing. We talk about our fears, limitations, as if we had any at all. The heat of our days journeying find us agreeing to shower together. In our haste to cool off, we see each other nude for the first time. We embrace. This gesture is benign, yet in my brain hopeful. We help one another cleanse away dust and dirt of life. I repeat my query, do you possess virtue? She says she has and will again. We lie under the sparse shade of an olive tree, dry off. We dress into clean garments. I feel immersed in her presence like an addict to a fix. She grimaces, walks further toward our destination. Speaking no words, she hums melodies I remember hearing as a child. Dusk is approaching. We seek shelter again in a dilapidated ancient stucco chapel. We feel reverent. A bronze cross is hung above a wooden table. We unroll our sleeping mats, take comfort here. In the morning, a crude working outdoor shower sprays water over us. We set off, continuing on as sandstorms surround us. Helicopters hover, signal to us, prepare for landing. We board and are asked about our mission. The Egyptian government will come for the camels. has been over a year since Hamas attacked Israel. Israel, Palestine, Iran, Lebanon, Jordan are all steep deep in this ever-evolving conflict. We are flown to an embassy. Here I asked Nadja once again, do you possess virtue? Her answer is, if given a gun, I will shoot to protect myself. We find that we cannot remain together. The ambassadors say it's for safety purposes. The defeat inside me is real. I'm drafted as a soldier on the opposing side of Nadja's homeland. Nadja is flown to a safer haven. Without her, evil becomes my companion. I'm forced to fight or die. I have become chaos. Virtue has escaped me. Thank you.
Wow, that was really stirring. Thank you so much. It is a bit of a leading question to say to someone, do you possess virtue? I might keep that for my dinner party conversations and see what comes.
Thank you, Cassandra. Thank you,
Great to see
everybody.
you back. Well, he
Thanks.
needs a little introduction. Perhaps I will call him our poet coxswain. So, DeWitt, what do you got for us? Oh, you're mute. Hang on, you're mute. We don't want to miss your dulcet tones. You're still mute. Weirdly. Hooray!
No, okay. As some of you kindly know, I'm prone to finding poems in prose. And often it's my own prose. And I have a reissued novel out, The Marriage of Anime Pots. And this is a poem that I found in it from one of its key passages called The Moth. Sat up, switched on lamp, heart thudding, unprotected. A large, heavy moth fluttered in the corner of the ceiling, pulled herself together. After a moment, got up, harried it out of the corner with a rolled up magazine, trapped it on the curtain with a glass. Hand over mouth of glass, moth wings scrabbled against her palm and rang against glass. Carried it through dark and silence, elbowed switch, shook moth into toilet, which she immediately flushed.
I love DeWitt's self-reflexive found poems, and I think that should inspire us to buy his novel as well. So, yep, go out and get yourself a copy. Next, we know her from her sea shanties, but she's promised us something else today. So, Vicky, what are we going to hear from you?
Hi there. Just a hymn to the poppy. It's called Opium Eater. Hi, poppy. Dippy hippy puff puff. The Elysian train awaits to roll in those flowing fields of shining stars, colours flying, sparklers popping, such languid leisure with no more trouble from your robble of a life. No, no grumble, but if you should mumble, well, that's okay, whatever.
Fantastic. Thank you. Wow. The Elysian train awaits. That's honest. Thank you so much. We have our Bobsy twins next. We've got Cindy. She owns the alphabet. We know she owns the alphabet. She's brilliantly sassy. Cindy, what do you got for us today?
Well, about a week ago, I wrote this poem, and even though it does have alliteration in it, and you know I'm working on a series of alliterative poems, I did not write this for the alliteration. I wrote it for existential angst. It's called Benediction. And with the poems that people read today, it seems to kind of dovetail into like the, holy, and there were a couple of poems that were read that sort of go with this benediction. God, I am weary of this world. God, I am wary of this world. God, I am worn out from this world. God, I am woeful for this world. God, I am war-torn in this world. God, I am wishful for this world. I am wistful for this world. So help me, God, I am wistful for the world that was. Thank you.
Wow, that was quite whimsical. I loved that. I think being weary and wary is very important. So another smash from you, Cindy. Amazing. And finally, we have to throw to Bob from his supernatural kitchen. He has all sorts of lighting going on there to make it seem very exciting and from the future somehow. But we love what Bob has to say as a final word for the open. It's so important. So, Bob, are we going to have information, not information, tap
No
dancing?
information.
No. Okay. Wow. Okay. It's a big day today, everyone. Watch
Well,
out.
everything is information, actually, but it's not.
It's not labeled information.
Yes.
It
And
is.
it was
Excellent.
actually written yesterday, and it's a little bit different. What was seen was not what was there. What was there was what they thought was there, but was different from what they expected, from what they remembered had been there before.
It's a Bob poem. You know it. You hear it. You think Bob Beeman. That's him. I know his work anywhere. Thank you, Bob. That's a brilliant one to take away
Thank
today.
you.
Back to Mark.
Thank you, Bob. And
Thanks.
thank you. That was great. Thank you again, Lesley, Sasha, Holaday, Bernd, and Katharine for such a fantastic reading. And just to end this wonderful episode today, I'm going to read a single poem that is only one line. And the title of the poem is How Stardom Has Replaced Mythology. And the line of the poem is The Dance of the Bumblebee. And I wish you all a wonderful evening, lots of love and poetry. Thank you so much for tonight. And hopefully see you next week, actually. We have another show with all sorts of fantastic guests, including Elise Nord, Jenny Grassi, Regina Colonio Wilner, and Uche Nutka. So join us for that. And lots of love and poetry. Good night, folks. Bye.
Thank you.
Next, Mark.
Bye.